Muslims,
violence,
refugees,
mutants.
Welcome to Pop Culture Politics, the show where we take your shows, talk about what they're trying to say, and how that relates to your world today. Now, if you've got a TV show or a film you want us to discuss, let us know in the comments below. So, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, I'm going to try not to fanboy too hard over this one because I know many of you think it's a show for teenage girls, and technically it is, but that's just the surface. So let's go deep. Okay, so basically Buffy is a show about a girl with superpowers who fights vampires and monsters. She's the hero, she's the slayer. And usually there's only one slayer per generation, but because Buffy goes and gets herself sort of killed for a bit, we end up with two at the same time. Now this other slayer, she's called Faith. She's basically the rebellious version of Buffy. She kind of represents Buffy's own dark side.
Hey there, insured.
When are you gonna get this, B? Life for Slayer's very simple. Want, take, have.
But her moral development throughout the show is really cool. She goes from badass slayer to going so psycho killer that Buffy has to stab her to actually fighting alongside Buffy at the end.
You protecting vampires? Are you the bad Slayer now? Am I the good Slayer now?
So where does it all go wrong? Faith and Buffy are out doing their hero thing. Vampire attacks, Faith throws him up against a wall, Buffy stabs him in the heart, poof. Next attack, Buffy throws him up against a wall, Faith stabs him in the heart. Only problem is, that was a human being. So one of our major heroes just killed a guy. Completely innocent mistake, but how do you live with that? How do you live with the knowledge that you've killed somebody?
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Do you just go on with the guilt knowing that at the time it was a completely innocent and justifiable thing to do? Or do you do what Faith does, which is to bend her morality around her own actions? Tell yourself that you've done nothing wrong because that way your conscience and what you've done are now compatible with each other.
Faith, you don't get it. You killed a man.
No, you don't get it. I don't care.
Now for Faith, that meant accepting that killing was okay. And she goes down that rabbit hole a long way. She keeps killing people. She eventually becomes one of the major enemies of the whole season. And she actually tortures her own watcher, who's like a Slayer's mentor. Until one day, basically as a plot device, Buffy and Faith switch bodies.
Look, I know what you're going to say, and
I'm Buffy.
all right, I didn't know what you were going to say, but that doesn't make you any less crazy.
And for a while, Faith gets to live without the guilt of what she's done in the past, twisting how she acts in the present. But it does bring up another issue. People who do bad things don't tend to think they're bad people. They just think that everyone else is as bad as they are. That in the same situation, other people will do the exact same thing. That's why Faith, in Buffy's body, is so desperate to prove that Buffy doesn't really care about people either.
I've missed you.
Because I haven't visited, right? I knew it.
And that's why one of the key moments in that episode is where Faith is having sex with Buffy's boyfriend, obviously as Buffy.
I love you.
And it's a level of intimacy and genuineness that no one's ever shown her before, and it terrifies her.
Get off! Who are you? What do you want from her?
She doesn't want to believe that it's real. She doesn't want to believe that other people genuinely care about each other. She'd prefer to believe that there must be some ulterior motive. But that's what many of us do. If other people are bad, we use that as an excuse not to try so hard to be good. But the realization that there are actually people out there who genuinely care about each other, that changes things for her. At the start of the episode, when she's trying out Buffy's body,
Buffy.
she's actually making fun of Buffy's moral code because she thinks it must all be fake.
You can't do that. It's wrong. Because it's wrong. Because it's wrong.
And then, by the end of the episode,
You're not gonna kill these people.
Why not?
Because it's wrong.
the show writers used that body switch to force Faith to take a really good look in the mirror. And let's just say she doesn't like what she sees.
You're nothing! Disgusting! Murderous bitch! You're nothing! You're disgusting!
But when she switches back, she switches back. She runs away and she keeps killing people. Only now, she just accepts that, well, I must just be a bad person. Because she can no longer pretend to herself that everyone else is just as bad as she is. And she starts to really hate herself. She even tries to get Angel to kill her. Until eventually, her true conscience comes crashing back in.
I know what you want. And I'm not gonna do it.
So how does this relate to us? People don't just keep heading down a dark path for the fun of it. They do so because every step they take changes the way they view the world.
It's like you just keep sinking a little deeper every day and nobody even sees.
Were you planning to slit my throat anytime soon?
See, often we make innocent mistakes that were completely justifiable at the time, but they have bad consequences that we just didn't see coming. But we can often tell ourselves that those bad consequences are acceptable, just so that we don't have to feel guilty for them, even though we would have never accepted those consequences at the start. And right now in the UK, and I can imagine the same goes for a small minority of Trump voters, imagine we feel the same way. A large part of the UK population is absolutely desperate for change because the country just hasn't been working for them. And we were told that leaving the EU was the answer. We were given a target, something that we were told was the reason why everything had been going wrong, and that leaving it would make everything better. But over the last 2 years, it's become more and more clear that Brexit, leaving the EU, just wasn't the answer. And that leaving the European Union has been a complete train wreck from start to finish, with stuff getting more expensive, with businesses leaving, doctors leaving, no sign of getting any good deal out of these negotiations. It's just been a complete international embarrassment. But as a country, we're struggling to accept that there's anything wrong with Brexit because at the time of voting for it, we didn't mean any harm. And therefore, that vote and all the consequences of it, no matter how bad, must be okay. We've bent our national morality and what we're willing to accept around that vote so that we can avoid any feelings of guilt. And that is why we're heading down a really dark path. Then there's also that thing where we like to look at others as bad so that we can feel better about our own actions. You may have heard the term in politics, false equivalence. That's basically where someone says, what I did wasn't bad, look at what they did. And it happens every single day in politics, every single political debate, every election campaign. It's always, look what she did, look what he did, look what they did. And that way, nobody can be blamed or held accountable for anything because there's always this vague notion of, well, other people are bad. And you've probably heard the argument when it comes to selling weapons to countries that are using them to commit crimes against humanity. Well, if we didn't sell those weapons, other countries would. You know, that's basically the same argument as saying, well, it's a dangerous neighborhood. That woman, she's bound to get attacked by someone. I may as well have a go. But hey, if you've disagreed with anything I've said today, or if you've got an idea for another aspect of a TV show that you want me to discuss, let me know in the comments below. I'm Femi. I'm on PCP. Good night.